Lately, we've had a spate of demoralizing headlines suggesting that women are to blame for their own underrepresentation. Two rationales have been reported or misreported based on an undergraduate thesis by an economics student from my alma mater, Princeton. The first claim is that women discriminate against women. But to be fair to the student and the thesis, nowhere in this undergraduate thesis is this actually asserted. In fact, the author, Emily Sands, who wrote the undergraduate thesis, believes she has proven that men and women evaluate merit according to gender equality, according to gender equally and without bias. And here's where the confusion came. When the student asked in a survey if her work would be supported by the theater community, women, more often than men, predicted that the plays written by women would receive less support. Sands speculated, and that's all that it is, that women would be more sensitive to the barriers women playwrights would face than men would be. And while this is conjecture, it is not an unreasonable assumption. The second rationale is more troubling because while the research itself is not credible, it's being widely circulated as fact. Sands asserted that the reason women were underrepresented in production was because the pool of available material was too small. When asked, she confirmed that she believed women don't write enough good plays. But her formula, if you actually read the thesis for devising this, is based on unreliable data, speculation, and by Sands' own admission, a lack of knowledge about theater practice. As a number of analysts have demonstrated, there is actually no factual evidence for this conclusion. The fact is that actual submission rates for women at relevant theaters like Playwrights Horizons and Screwball, which have actual data, is between 30 and 40%. This is far less of a disparity than was guesstimated. But moreover, those of us who work in the theater know that plays are almost never selected through submission, so the rationale has little bearing. It's scary how eagerly it is reported that women discriminate against women, or they just don't write enough. Sometimes the truth is just not sexy enough to be the news. Again, all of this points to the need for credible research, conducted reliably and consistently, but also reported reliably. The bottom line is the underrepresentation of women in theater is caused neither by the discrimination of women against women, nor by the paucity of material. Never before has there been a greater abundance of recognized talent among women playwrights and directors. In the mechanisms that confer merit, such as New Dramatists, NIFAS Performance Awards, the Drama League's directing programs, the NEATCG Playwrights and Pride Residencies, and Yale School of Drama's MFA in Playwriting and Directing, just to name a few, women constitute half or more, often well more. 10 years ago, the Dramatists Guild membership was 22% female. That's the full membership. But the associate membership was 44% female. That means that 22% were produced. The larger figure were women who were writing and not getting produced. Today's figures for SSDC are that the associate membership is 44.4%, exactly the same figure as it was 10 years ago. But the full membership is 29.2. That means that women are writing almost at, are directing almost at parity, but are only getting contracts for significant productions at a rate of less than a third. For what it's worth, women have for some time constituted roughly half of the MFAs in playwriting and directing for most of the elite programs. For men, that's a high predictor of career success. For women, not so much. Women are not underrepresented because the talent pool is too small. Yet when theaters were asked to commit to programming equitably, even for a limited amount of time, they balked. They said it would be censorship, imposed quotas, it would diminish the quality of theater. It was too challenging for artistic directors to find 1.5 to 2.5 plays that they thought were worth producing each year, even with the entire global female talent pool to choose from. Now, if they can't find 1.5 to 2.5 plays a year by women as good as what's out there now, I will send them a list. The thing is, the scholar Virginia Valian demonstrated in her exhaustive studies of gender perception and career advancement why so slow, which I very much recommend. The only way to achieve equity is to make it a conscious, explicit goal. And if theaters are not willing to make parity a conscious, explicit goal, then we will have to. Then why bother with all this research? What's the point? In every occupation, we have to track employment by gender, race, age, and compensation, regularly and in a consistent manner. And we don't do that at this time. We need to understand the demographics of the profession. We need to measure actual progress against perception, and we need to monitor our progress against a specific goal. We need research. However, we can't keep expecting that raising awareness will change behavior. It hasn't and it won't. Neither civil nor human rights are secured by polite request. For decades, the English suffragists have tried to win the vote by demonstrating to men that women were civilized, rational, patient, and well-behaved. In other words, no threat. Then a more radical subset, the suffragettes, got fed up. They defied the social prohibition against public appearance. They abandoned their homes and housework and staged spectacular demonstrations, broke windows, set fires, interrupted Parliament, and within a few years they got the vote. I am not encouraging the destruction of property, necessarily, but I am saying that we owe it to them and to all other activists who fought to secure our hard-won rights that we can now take for granted, to finish the job. One such activist is here tonight to help us see our work in a broader social context, to expand our discussion, and to recognize more effective strategies to achieve our goal. Why does any of this matter? First of all, women who work in the theater are entitled to the same protection under the law as women in any other occupation. And if we don't enforce the law, we lose the protection. Second, Carolyn Heilbrunn said, power consists largely in choosing whose stories will be told. If theater matters, then it matters whose stories are told and by whom. Almost all our theaters say their mission is to produce great plays, or great American plays, or great classics, or great African American plays. They don't say great plays by men, and yet that is what they mostly produce, making invisible half the population. Third, every season that underrepresents women sends the message that women have nothing to say, that they don't matter, and that hurts everyone. Not the least of which is the hundreds of thousands of kids bused dutifully to the theater by well-intentioned schools. Finally, the fate of all women is inseparable. In this past Sunday's New York Times Magazine special issue, Saving the World's Women, authors Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Lee Dunn said the paramount moral challenge of this century is the brutality inflicted on so many women and girls around the globe. And what followed was a catalog of unspeakable violence towards women in developing countries. Clearly, for millions, it's tragic to be female, as the Pulitzer Prize winner by Women so eloquently showed us. Our grievances here are not comparable. They are, however, on the same continuum. Here we value a white woman as worth 78 cents on the male dollar, 67 cents if she's African American, 56 cents if she's Hispanic. In other countries, women are actually property and accorded no human percentage at all. If we want to create a universal standard for women's rights, we have to make sure that on all fronts, in all countries, in all ways, women are fully human, which is to say 100% equal to men. You can't be a little bit equal any more than you can be a little bit pregnant. Again, from the 1976 report, parity for women would mean 50% of all jobs, since women are not a minority in the population. And this should be the goal of all affirmative action programs in every segment of society. We can achieve this parity through the creation of an extensive alliance with leverage, clearly articulated goals, and the readiness to impose relentless pressure and consequences. Tonight is the first step in developing the strategies necessary to achieve our objective. 50-50 by 2020, by the button.